Greetings, everyone. Tonight I'm going to read this article from Cohn, Swift, and Graff, Investigations and Cases, Active Case, Groundbreaking Human Trafficking Lawsuit against Scientology, Valeska Paris et al. Versus Church of Scientology International Incorporated et al. Children as young as 10 years old were forced to do labor in service of Scientology instead of receiving basic schooling. They were isolated from their parents and endured verbal abuse for minor or fabricated transgressions. The plaintiffs were compelled to join the crew on Scientology's Freewind ship, forced to work under extreme conditions with no way out. Three individuals who were raised in Scientology and forced to work in its service from childhood filed a groundbreaking lawsuit against Scientology's leader, David Miscavige, and 5 Scientology-affiliated corporations, alleging violation of the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, TVPRA. Again, that is Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act. The filing details the horrific mistreatment the plaintiffs endured under the control of Scientology, including forced labor, verbal and physical abuse, intimidation, and coercion at Scientology's primary hub of activity in Clearwater, Florida, and for more than a decade on board Scientology's cruise vessel, the Freewinds. The plaintiffs allege that beginning in childhood, they were required to commit to a lifetime of service to Scientology, enduring regular verbal abuse, crowded living conditions, and sleep deprivation. Children were repeatedly told that those who attempted to leave Scientology could suffer awful fates, including death, which is still going on, by the way. Beginning as young as 10, the plaintiffs were forced to work in Scientology's Cadet Org and Sea Org, providing unpaid and extremely low-paid labor, including landscaping, food service, and janitorial work. The plaintiffs allege that Scientology employs numerous psychologically devastating tactics to achieve coercive control over members, including lengthy interrogation sessions in which individuals who have been abused are compelled to take full blame for those abuses and agree to make amends to their abusers. For years, Scientology has exploited defenseless children and groomed them for a lifetime of servitude. Our clients were subjected to systemic indoctrination and manipulation that normalizes extremely abusive treatment. Throughout their formative years and into adulthood, they were forced to perform labor under unimaginable conditions, said Neil L. Glazer, an attorney for the plaintiffs and shareholder at the law firm of Cohn, Swift, and Graff, P.C. Their lives have been forever altered by this mistreatment. Still going on today. Growing up in Scientology, being separated from my family, and subjected to severe verbal and physical abuse has scarred me in ways that I am still working through and uncovering. Sometimes it feels like it will never end. All the while, Scientology continues to abuse and exploit its members, including young children, and infants, and does so with virtually unchecked power, said plaintiff Guywan Baxter. To this day, there are completely defenseless minors being mistreated by Scientology leadership, just as I was. They are isolated from family and have no way to protect themselves. Scientology must be held accountable for the human rights abuses and trauma it has inflicted without a shred of remorse. Plaintiff Guywan Baxter was required at age 6 to sign a contract pledging to serve Scientology, and by extension David Miscavige, for 1 billion years. Beginning at age 10, he alleges he was forced to attend expensive indoctrination sessions, the costs of which he was continually told were recorded as a mounting financial debt he would have to pay if he ever left the Sea Org. As a teenager, Guywan Baxter was allegedly transported from Clearwater to Curaçao and compelled to board the Free Winds, where his identification documents were immediately confiscated, like passports. I guess LAPD doesn't understand that. I don't know, like something's wrong with them. There he was forced to provide manual labor with few breaks and little sleep. Tasks were often incredibly dangerous, such as when he was ordered to squeeze inside fuel tanks to clean them from the inside, without a respirator to protect him from the fumes. When the Free Winds underwent extensive renovations, he worked more than 18 hours per day and was exposed to blue asbestos and concrete dust. He was not provided any protective equipment and soon became ill, coughing up blood. That's what children should be doing, huh? I guess LAPD thinks so. LAPD is totally fine with this kind of stuff. They have no problem with it. Scientology cannot be allowed to continue exploiting the labor of its members and inflicting emotional and physical abuse without facing justice, said Ted Leopold, an attorney for the plaintiffs at Cohen Milstein, Sellers and Toll, PLLC. Our hope is that the lawsuit will assist the plaintiffs in holding Miscavige and Scientology accountable for this egregious mistreatment. The second plaintiff, Laura Baxter, grew up in Scientology in Germany. At age 7, her mother signed her up to take Scientology courses. By 15, she worked as a staff member for Scientology in Stuttgart, which required her to undergo frequent auditing and security checks. Her mother eventually signed over guardianship. That's their trick right there. To a senior Scientology officer, after which she was transported to the Free Winds. Her identifying documents, passport, were also confiscated, and she was forced to do labor and endure punishment for minor or fabricated transgressions. In 2004, a prominent Scientologist celebrated their birthday aboard the Free Winds. Oh, we know who that is. At the celebration, the plaintiff was allegedly falsely accused of monopolizing their attention. Unreal. As punishment, was confined to the hot engine room for 3 days and was only allowed to leave for a few minutes at a time for meals and a few hours of sleep in her room. During her time on the Free Winds, she continued to endure further abuse, such as being forced to confess to alleged crimes against Scientology, having her meager pay withheld, being confined and under constant surveillance. Like they still do. I guess LAPD is totally fine with that kind of stuff. Guy Wayne and Laura Baxter met aboard the Free Winds and ultimately married. Eager to escape the Sea Org, they made the decision to become pregnant, which would give them the opportunity to leave due to a policy change following unfavorable news coverage of the Sea Org's forced abortion policy. When Laura became pregnant, the two were offered a choice to terminate the pregnancy or leave the Sea Org. When they declined to terminate the pregnancy, they were isolated from the ship's staff, put under full-time surveillance, and required to undergo ethics handlings and security checks as punishment. Guy Wayne, I don't know how to say that name. Guy Wayne was also interrogated and berated for not forcing Laura to terminate her pregnancy. After weeks of punishment and isolation, when it became clear that they were not going to comply, Guy Wayne and Laura were permitted to leave the ship. That's why I say some of these elderly people need to just either drop dead or just rot to death, because they're the ones that were making them, this young couple, trying to force them to abort their baby. To this day, they are traumatized as a result of what they endured since childhood. They regularly receive intimidating phone calls from Scientologists as a reminder that they continue to be monitored. The third plaintiff, Valeska Paris, was subjected to Scientology indoctrination beginning when she was just 4 years old. During this training, which continued throughout her childhood and adolescence, she was regularly interrogated by adults who asked graphic questions about sexual acts for hours at a time. When she was 6 years old, Valeska's parents deposited her with the Cadet Org in England, where she was provided minimal schooling and was forced to work for hours every day. It's the auditing that Serge Delmar keeps talking about. And there's so many of those children that, what do they call, the second gens, that have offed themselves. Nobody cares. LAPD surely doesn't care, do they? They don't care about those children. When she was 14 years old, Valeska was pressured into going to work in the Sea Org at Scientology's flag base in Clearwater, Florida. There, among other things, she was punished for reporting having been sexually assaulted, otherwise known as rape, by a senior Scientology officer. Names, 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 names. I want to know what year this was. After several years of mistreatment, Scientology's leader, David Miscavige, ordered her to be put to work on the Free Winds, where she toiled under extreme conditions for many years. Because of the horrors I experienced at the hands of Scientology from childhood and throughout my adolescence, I still have nightmares. Scientology is a system that is designed to perpetuate fear, and I could continue to struggle with the trauma. No person, child or adult, should have to go through the daily abuse and manipulation I faced. Though bringing this lawsuit is a great personal risk, I could not stand by while countless children continue to be trained for a lifetime of slavery and abuse, said plaintiff Valeska Paris. TVPRA is a 2008 law that strengthened the federal trafficking laws established in the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000. The lawsuit also names Church of Scientology International Religious Technology Center. Isn't that what everybody calls the INT Center? Where Mitch Brisker and Mark Headley worked, amongst others. International Association of Scientologists Administrations, IASA. That was where they did that thing in Grimstad, England. Church of Scientology Flag Service Organization, Inc., and Church of Scientology Flagship Service Organization, Inc. as defendants. The lawsuit has been filed on behalf of the three plaintiffs who are represented by Neil L. Glazer of Cohen, Swift & Graff, P.C., Ted Leopold of national plaintiff firm Cohen, Milstein, Sellers and Toll, PLLC, Gregory Hansel of Preddy Flaherty, and Warren A. Zimmerman. That, my friends, these men are what you call real men. They stand up for children. There's his credentials and phone number. And here's the lady standing up for lady lawyers standing up for abused children. Another young man, Elias Cohn, standing up for children that were abused. If you guys have any questions about this case, you can go and fill out this little form here. And me personally, I don't know how it all works, but I've seen a lot of lawyers putting out requests for any other victims to come forward. So, I was going to say something else. I know I read another article like this, but it wasn't the exact same one. I didn't read the whole thing through. So, I can't remember what I was going to say, but about the children in Scientology. So I'll most definitely put the link of the article in the description box. I hope you all have a good night or a good day wherever you are. Peace.